and aligning incentives for the private sector to come in and lead the way in augmenting productivity in the economy. Our standing in the world by producing and selling world-class products, engaging the diaspora, making use of modern technologies, particularly in IT and AI is already showing us the way for what the economy of the future would look like. So we are all in that very exciting phase of reform, not quite knowing where all this will lead. But we know the fundamentals that need to be set right to navigate this uncertain economic climate. And this is where I think the budget will take its place in setting that direction, emphasizing the foundations of good laws, good institutions, and the basic incentives for the private sector, with the state's sort of overarching role in making sure that the regulatory landscape is amenable to private investment. And we want to correct many of the malpractices of the past. And that's where we come in with that strong resolve. So as you probably heard in the government's Niti Tatha Karyakram, as well as the government's Budget Ka Siddhanta Tatha Prathamikta, I hope if you read the two in conjunction, you will get a clear message of where this government is heading. And in fact, many people ask me, what is going to come and what will be the new scenario. And I always tell them to consult our manifesto, because we are so faithful to the manifesto that we drafted before the election, and that unprecedented mandate that we received from the Nepali people, we believe was an overwhelming endorsement of the manifesto. And in particular, the 100 transformative measures that we've outlined there on the economy, on the socio-political front, on the international front. And undergirding all that is our very strong resolve to augment good governance in this country. So let me just end with the 5 principles that we are emphasizing, and the 5 priorities that align with those 5 principles that we've laid out, and on which the parliamentary deliberations are about to commence. And I hope to expand on these in response to the concerns of specific members of parliament over the next day or two. So the 5 principles that we've laid out is really this bedrock commitment to governance. So we are explaining this as a transition away from the heavy price that the Nepali society has paid for malgovernance over the 10 to 15 years, and this decisive shift we need to make to reap the dividends of good governance. So we call this Susasanko Lagamsa. So that's the dividends of good governance that we want to spread and solidify and cement in the Nepali society over the next 5 years. But the early beginnings of that will happen it has already begun in our opinion, but the budget will make it much more credible and ensure that the good reforms that we announce are irreversible. So that's the approach. The second, obviously, is the restructuring of the economy. As you all know, and I'm sure you've been discussing this and will discuss in subsequent panels, that the productive competencies of our economy have been eroded over the last 2 decades. We've become a completely remittance-dependent economy. And while we seek to wean off our heavy dependence on remittances over the next few decades, how do we build those durable sources of economic growth? And that's very much our focus. This country with an adverse terrain, beautiful, but very difficult to do business in. We need to connect it in multifaceted forms So our third priority is a holistic approach to infrastructure building in a manner that connects our society and the regional economies. So there will be a heavy emphasis on roads, a complete universalization of energy connectivity, grid connectivity in all its form, hopefully all clean. There will be a major emphasis on internet connectivity, something that is reliable and also accessible, and obviously on aviation safety. We need to do much more to connect Nepal with each other, the regions within, but also connect Nepal to the world. We could be doing much more in this area. So a unified approach to infrastructure building to augment connectivity. On social investments, on especially the universal social mobility, quality health, education, nutrition, access to basic financial services, and the sustenance of a viable social security architecture. That's going to be extremely important going forward. And the final principle that we're organizing our thoughts around, policies around, is not just steadying of foreign relations, but massive amplification of Nepal's soft power, the goodwill and the positive image that we command in the region as well as around the world, and now buttressed by the diaspora, ever-expanding diaspora, has to be looked at in a new way, right? Not just as a cultural sentiment, not just as a sentimental attachment to one's homeland, but as a major source of investment, educational exchange, cultural, augmenting the cultural footprint, and all that. So we've branded all this as the expansion of Nepal's soft power. So hopefully all the other priorities, policy priorities, and budgetary allocations that the state will make will be aligned with these 5 principles. So on good governance, we're entering it through the institutional reforms, the legal reforms, dozens of amendments that we will make, and this heavy deployment of IT and digitalization on e-governance, on public service delivery, and building the foundations for a digital economy. On the economics restructuring, we want to double down on sources of economic growth that we know will propel Nepal in a positive direction. So clean energy, digitalization as a source of economic growth, particularly to retain our young people and connect with the rest of the world while being physically based in Nepal. That's an important goal for us. Tourism in all its forms, green manufacturing, and high-value agriculture, right? And while building these as durable sources of economic growth, we do want to look into sectors where Nepal can, with some assistance, conduct industrial policy and displace imports as well, right? So this is what we're looking at. On the expansion of the physical infrastructure, we do want to attract private capital. So something that I've been arguing over the last 2 or 3 weeks in Parliament and beyond is the government's allocation of capital expenditures is not enough. And we do need to supplement that with a massive inflow of private finance. And that we will do by issuing a bonds, sector-specific thematic bonds. We will invite diaspora. We will look into how to better leverage our healthy reserve buildup at the Rashtra Bank, foreign exchange reserves. If we can leverage a tiny portion of that on investments that needs hard currency, and offshore bonds facilitated by multilateral agencies, that would also be very important. And our internal borrowing that is tied to specific investments. So rather than using internal borrowing as a source of revenue, could we link them to productive capacities? So that's very much the approach that we'll be taking. On social investments, I already mentioned that the goal is to secure equality of opportunities in education, in health, so that the big disparities that exist along regional lines, along ethnic, along gender lines need to be narrowed much more. And that can only happen through a conscientious state investment in these areas, and that we'll very much do. And finally, to expand soft power, we need to diversify our traditional relationships between countries, among nations, and also with international institutions, and how to leverage the growing diaspora around the world. So this diversification of multifaceted international relations is also going to see concrete allocation of resources to manifest in where the priorities lie going forward. Overall, it's going to be a very private sector friendly, investment friendly, a pro-competition kind of an approach, and hopefully we win the confidence of the private sector and the government, as well as the private sector, both at home and abroad, and the diasporic strengths that are seeking to re-engage with the country will also be encouraged by what we have to offer, and we can work hand in hand over the next few months. So thank you very much, and I wish this Nepal Business Summit a grand success today. Thank you.